Welcome to Golf and the Good Life, your guide to golf travel across the pond. I'm DJ Jones, joined as always by my good friend Connor Evers. And today we are talking about what we love about links golf. But first off, Connor, we are coming up on some exciting times, man. We've got the golf travel season's roughly halfway through. We have the Open Championship at Royal Port Rush here in a few weeks. What is the latest and greatest up at H&B HQ?
Deej, as always, appreciate the introduction. And that's correct. Kind of status quo over across the pond from our groups. Beautiful pictures from overseas as well. And when we kind of thought that drought may be happening, the weather's coming in and the drought stories are kind of past. So all good there. And as you mentioned, crazy that we're approaching the halfway season through. But quick shout out to members that are about to depart for expeditions across the pond from Belmead Country Club, the Golf Club of Tennessee, Plum Hollow Country Club, and Tiburon Golf Club. And I just want to also share another ballot success story. Actually, one of my groups, members from Lakewood Ranch, as well as the Country Club of Naples down in Florida. So congrats to them. They're planning on balloting 5 days. They hit on the second day of 5. So congrats to them. And they just played it a couple days ago. So looking forward to hearing about that as well. So that's kind of the intro. And as we said, status quo from overseas.
Well, that's great stuff about the ballot. I mean, that's actually 2 episodes, I think, in a row that we've shared one of those. And I think I mentioned last time, I've been seeing, across the online golf travel community, people who have been successful either in the singles queue or the ballot. And it's always great to see. I think it's important to note, though, that this is not an H&B related thing. It's got nothing to do with us. If you are working with a golf travel company that has led you to think that they can influence the ballot or they, quote, know a guy, cast a skeptical eye. We have said that before because it is pure luck of the draw. Just so happens that these couple of groups have landed on the right side of that draw, and it's always great to hear. But as we have often said, things just have a funny way of coming together in St. Andrews. But back to today's episode, we are covering why we love links golf. And this episode is going to be a little different, if you can't already tell from just the title, because finally, at long last, 62 episodes into this thing, our colleague Mike Walters is here to join us on the podcast. You have definitely heard Mike's name around the podcast. You may have even worked with Mike on past expeditions. He's an expedition planning manager alongside Connor. And given today's topic, it's pretty fitting because you would be hard pressed to find someone more passionate about links golf than Mike Walters. So Mike, man, it's only been 2.5 years in the making. I'm sorry it's taken us this long, but better late than never, as they say.
Thanks for having me on, boys. I'm looking forward to chatting with you and chatting with everybody about a topic near and dear to our hearts. No doubt about it.
The topic is why we love links golf. And kind of the backstory, for you out there listening, is that the very first question that we asked Dan Wood on our interview a couple episodes back was, what is it about links golf that keeps you going back? And we asked that question because he's been over a handful of times. And after a while, the best of things can start to lose their luster. And we got to talking amongst ourselves and we realized, that very much applies to us. I mean, we're lucky that we get to go all the time, sometimes multiple times a year. But yet links golf for us has never, not 1 ounce, started to lose its shine. And so, Mike, I'm going to lead off with that same exact question for you. What is it about links golf that keeps you going back?
I think it all started back when we started talking about the process with Haversham and Baker in 2001. I was a club professional at the time, and our colleague Chris McCon, who's the senior planner here, has been here for so long. He's a high school friend, and we were talking about taking our dads and getting the trip started. And he promised us right off the bat, as good as you think it is going to be, it's going to be even better. And he was right. So you go home and you cannot help it. As everybody knows, that's between the three of us, everybody that's listening. Once you come home, you can only play so many places. You're already scheming about what's next. You can't help it because you may have checked 6 or 7 boxes, maybe a couple you didn't even expect. And now you're already thinking about the next ones that you haven't hit yet. And let me stress to you, the three of us in the office every day we are still fanboys. We are always talking about where we're going next. I know Connor has tons of stories about when he's getting ready to go to Elevate in October, and listening to his list that he's getting ready to check off, we can't help but be envious and excited for him at the same time. It's a mixed bag because there's so many reasons as to the whys and the whats. So I'm going to do it from a personal standpoint. You can go to the same coastline. I'm just going to throw the southwest of Ireland in there. You can go to the same coastline within a couple of hours of one another, and every one of them is different. Same coast, same sea, different story. Deej, you're down in Florida. Connor is from the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest. Here in the States, the story tends to look the same after a while, even if it's the same designers, same tree line, same cornfield, same palm tree. You go overseas, every one of these places tells a different story, and they're all fantastic. And you just can't wait to get a taste. And we love the big names, but a lot of times you go and play these that you just didn't expect, and they become big names for you, for me. North Berwick, when I started, was not a big name. It is now. But there are more than that out there. Last time I was at Elevate a few years ago, I played Fortrose and Rose Marquis. I love that place. It's not everyone's cup of tea in the fact that it's not a big name, but the coastline is stunning. The Highlands, you guys know how much I love the Highlands. Place is fantastic. Ardglass is another one that may not be that small anymore. And every time I go now, I want to play Ardglass. I want to go visit Paul, the head professional there, and Paul Vaughn, by the way. And County Lout's another one that I had the good fortune of visiting. And you might be saying, I've never heard of these places. Good. That means we're doing our job talking about them, because there's so many great places to see that you may have never heard of, and they will become your favorites for that reason. Same coast, same country, different story. Fantastic.
Amazing, Mike. But yeah, I mean, I think like you said, it's like personal too. I've been over, since with H&B a few times, and a couple of those are been with my dad, and he doesn't play golf, but he loves watching. He'll, hit a couple putts on a putting green or when we're out there, and we've just gotten a lot closer on those trips. I mean, Deej and I, when we went up to Northwest Ireland and the fall of 2022. I mean, you were with me, and it was an amazing experience. I think just getting closer with my dad on those have just been like really, really cool experiences for me. He's coming over with me, it sounds like, in this fall too. It's such a spiritual walk, on links golf. I mean, it's so different comparatively to what we have here. A lot of those courses, especially in Ireland, the dunes are enormous, and it's just incredible how these courses are made and built. And a lot of times there's really not any dirt moved, or if not none. And you're walking these fairways and you're like, how in the world is this here? And you just have to think like there's something bigger out there that put it here, and you're walking those surfaces, and it makes you ponder, makes you wonder, makes it very interesting. And I just finished an article last night that'll be out in the blog about kind of my 5 favorite holes overseas, and I talked about the 10th hole at Lahinch. And how, in the States here, it's target golf. It's, I don't know, an example, the 17th hole at TPC Sawgrass, it's wedge or a short iron. You got to land it here, and that's how you play it. Well, links golf, you're sometimes landing it 30 and 50 yards short of the green and heading up to the unknown. You just don't know where it's going to end up. And I think it's that anticipation and wonder of after you strike the shot of where it's going to end up. And it's that anticipation that's the coolest thing about links golf. So I think the wonder and just those different shots you're able to hit is just the purest form of golf that we can possibly experience.
There is no better thrill in the game of golf, in my opinion, than hitting a shot where you have no idea where it has wound up and racing to the top of a dune or to the top of a hill to see where it is. You've told a story, Connor, about being in Lahinch, and the first time you played the Klondike and you hit like a 3-wood or something, and you needed to hit like a 6-iron. So you think you've hit a great shot, and then you get up there and it turns out you've hit it into the next county. And And like, or when we were at Critch Island, I don't remember with a whole number, 3 or 4 or something. We both hit driver off the tee. We go run into the top of the hill. Where is it going to be? They're both in the ocean on their way to Canada. There's no better thrill than that. And you just don't really get that much over here. But Connor, man, you absolutely nailed it, at least for me. You talked about, you used the word spiritual. To go out onto these courses, even without your golf clubs, or if you have one club in your hand and a ball, and you have the opportunity to just go walk around late in the day and just hit a run up shot to a green, and you're by yourself and the sun's going down, my head is never clearer than it is when I am in those moments. And for me, it also ties very much into the people. The golf is fantastic. The golf speaks for itself. We're going to talk a lot about golf, but it always for me ends up going back to the people, because I think about things like, not to flex, but the one time I got into the R&A clubhouse. Well, I got paired up with a couple of gentlemen on the new course, and we had a great day. And they invited me in. We go in, we have a pint afterwards. I have long since forgotten their names. But what I will never forget is they both played with their dogs. And the dogs were named Boris and Poppy. I will never forget the dogs' names. And it just completely stuck with me. Talking about late day rounds. I'm in Royal Dornoch. I've got a 7-iron and my putter. Sun's going down. And this is a little bit of a sad story, but it happened to be the day after the Pulse tragedy here in Orlando. I come up on this gentleman walking his dog. We get to talk and he asks where I'm from. I tell him and he says, "Wow, what tremendously sad news out of Orlando yesterday. How are you?" And candidly, I wasn't great. It was a very sad time. And what are the odds? I just randomly crossed this guy, and the first thing he thinks to say is, "How are you?" That all ties back to that spiritual thing. On the flip side, with the people thing, I think of like playing the old course, and I go off late in the day, and my brother had already played, and he comes out to the 17th green to meet up with me. And I've played okay, but I've putted absolutely terribly all day. And I introduced my brother to my caddy, and my caddy says, "He's hitting the ball well. He's played pretty well all day, but will you do me a favor? Will you take him up to Ochterlony's and buy him an expletive putter?" But again, I won't remember any of the shots that I've hit that day. I've already mostly forgotten them, but I will never forget that line from my caddy. But Mike, I'm curious, what does it do for your game when you're over? Getting out of the spiritual realm of this journey. As a former PGA professional and somebody that is knocking us around the golf course every time we play, what does it draw out of you when you're over there?
I think it's funny. I think it's a great question. And it goes back to something Connor mentioned, because you can play this game in so many different ways. As men, we only work with so many, percentage of our brain capacity anyway. But I think golf wise, it opens up, different imagination on all shots, not just around the greens, on all shots, because certainly that the game can be played through the air over there. Tom Watson talked about it more than anybody. He always said, "I never hit a punch shot when I was in Scotland." What he did is just work on hitting the ball more solidly. I don't even know what that means. I know what it means, but it's like that is a realm of awesome that we will never probably comprehend as golfers. But, for the rest of us, that when you're playing in, heavy crosswinds or into the wind or downwind, it makes you change your starting numbers. Where do I have to land the ball? It changes and opens up, because as we talked about here in the States, everything's in the air. Even in March, when it's windy here in Ohio, you can't play the shots you play overseas, because once you hit that ball low to try and bounce it in, it's not going to go anywhere when it hits the ground. It's splat and done. So you really have a lot of factors and figures coming in. We use a lot of laser finders, range finders when we play here in the States. They're helpful to a point over there, but really they're unnecessary, because you're playing so many different numbers that does not really matter. So I think what it does, even for the higher handicapper, is it allows them to understand that this game can be easier for them. If they're, how many people we taught over the years, Connor, you too, that we've taught or helped with their short games, they're terrible chipping and pitching. Well, old Texas wedge comes into play. You can putt from everywhere, and your caddies almost demand it. A great, we love throwing stories in. I do too. I remember playing the old course back in '02, and my guy, Nick, who was fantastic, I missed the green on 15 way to the right on 16T. Like the wind is blowing so hard in and across, and I'm over by the tee, and he's like, Mike, putt this through the valley. And I was down in Tennessee at the time, got really good at hitting this low checking sand wedge into that hole location. I'm like, Nick, I got this one. He goes, you putt this ball right now. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna hit this low checking wedge. He's like, this is Scotland, this isn't Tennessee. And I'm like, I got this. So he backs off and I hole it. And I am flailing my fists around like I just won the Open. He's like, I've never seen anybody get more excited about making birdie than you. And I'm like, that's because I didn't listen to you, So I think like I said, it just unlocks some things that you bring into your banter with your caddy that just make the game so much fun because it's just not a one-way street. Any playing type, any good or bad, man or woman, child, anybody can play. I think that's why they love the game over there so much as well.
Yeah, you said it perfectly, Mike. And I think the first thing you started off with is imagination. And even from like an architecture standpoint. So on the last podcast with Dan Wood, I brought up Brora, a few holes. I played it last October. And a lot of the holes, and not just putting Brora as one example, but everything over there practically, the bunkers in the fairways and a lot of those, they're placed there with the wind in thought. So, a lot of those, if you're, it's only 200 yards or 250 from a certain area, and it's like, oh, I'm going to blast driver. It's like, well, that's now in play. Or if the wind's the opposite way, it's like, oh, that bunker's not even in question. You can play it by. So you got to have a little bit of imagination off the tee. And as you said, I mean, I'd take putter everywhere now. I mean, if I'm in the fairway short, I mean, it's 50 yards and in, it's game on. I'm putting. I don't want to have anything to do with a wedge or anything. So I'll leave those wedges you had on 15 to you, Mike. That's old. But another one I like to do is just hit like a 6-iron bump. From 70 yards. I mean, just let it go up. And once you do that a lot more overseas, you can kind of figure out, how long this goes and stuff. And those are like the fun shots, like 70 yards with a 6-iron, and you're doing it like, not even halfway to halfway. I mean, it's just kind of a little shot, and it's just super fun, just letting it kind of watch it dwindle up to the hole. It's like, it's the coolest thing. So yeah, I think imagination is really the big thing of what kind of it affects my game. And you just look at the holes and your strategy and how you're going to kind of game yourself around the course completely different. And frankly, opposite of what we do here, as we talked about, and as you Mike said, it's target golf in here and opposite over there.
Well, and it's so much fun also when you get the rare opportunities to bring those shots to the States. So if you down here in the winter, these courses, they get dry as all get out in some areas, and so it's not linksy isn't the right term, but my home course that I grew up playing, there are a couple holes in particular that they get pretty hard and fast short up of the green. And it just so happened that I would play in a tournament that would be in the spring, and it would still be kind of hard. And man, you pull out a 6-iron from 60 yards out and people look at you like you've got 3 heads. Like, what on earth are you about to do? And then when you just punch it up there and it can be a lot of fun, when you pull it off. It doesn't always go as planned, but it is always fun to pull off. But yeah, for me also, it comes so much down to the setting and the conditions and the weather. Mm-hmm. In September or in October in Florida, it is still 90 degrees. When I can get to go over there and it's in the high 50s and low 60s that time of year, and I'm having to put on, a long sleeve shirt underneath it, it's like an escape. It's like I don't even know how to describe it, because we've gone through summer here, and so to get to go overseas and see and have to put on long pants and long sleeves, I mean, it's such a relief. But again, Mike, you talked about earlier about the just the feeling that you get when you're over there. The setting draws so much of that out of it. Art glass, which I know is at the top of your list, has to be, one of the best spots for that anywhere in the game.
I think you hit it. How often, when you're in the States, outside of a handful of places, do you get the breadth of those situations, of those places that you go? You think of Pebble, or I heard somebody say once, you're either a mountain golfer or a seaside golfer, and I don't buy it. I take all of it, any of it, but and that's the mix you get in, especially both Ireland and Scotland. The topography with the sea, because a lot of times in the States, it's very flat, great sea vistas, but you don't get the rolling that you get over there, in Ardglass, at Portrush, Turnberry, you name it, there it is, and every one of those, like you said, when we come out of the summer and go over, we typically go in late October and in November at times, and there's nothing like playing in a light pullover, light breeze. Even that, there are days, believe it or not, those of you that have gone over and be like, I don't know what you're talking about, light breeze. You get those days, and they're just the feeling you get between the views, the topography, just the game at its base, where it began. I think Connor mentioned that word spiritual. For golfers, that's what it feels like, from top to bottom. You just get this feeling about you that that's very hard to describe unless you've been over in it, and that's why we call it spiritual. But I think it's more that you're at the home of the game, where it all began, and everything everywhere else stemmed from that. And I think it's why it's like the cathedral of the game. No matter if it's St. Andrews or what my favorite is, Royal Dornoch, or Ballybunion, places like that. Just they're spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to add to that. I mean, you kind of hit cherry on the top there, but I mean, geez, you got Portrush behind you, the Dunluce. I mean, just the cliffs and the Dunluce Castle and the background of a lot of the holes, and from a setting standpoint, and nothing gets better. I think the most dramatic would be some of those dunes in like the southwest of Ireland or northwest with Enniscrone, and what we experience in Nairn and Portneuf, and St. Patrick's at Rosa Penna. I mean, those courses like that. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, and we've talked about it on past podcasts about what's different between England and Scotland and Ireland, and the holes in Scotland in a relative standpoint, it's a lot more subtle. But I think I love a lot more of those holes where the dunes kind of shape them, and you get a lot of that in Ireland. So again, don't have too much to add on that. Mike really killed it with that, but yeah, I mean, just the setting is incredible, and you can shoot 100 out there, but you look up and it's like, wow, I'm so blessed to be here and seeing all this, and I think that's just the coolest thing.
Remember when you played Cruden?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cruden Bay for the first time. Talk about that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's another one. I didn't even think about that. I mean, the Punch Bowl green or not the Punch Bowl. Yeah. Is it the 15th? If I recall, the 15th?
14.
I mean,
14.
Thank you. 14. Thank you. The bathtub green. I mean, the first few holes, it's subtle. And then once you go up to once you start the back nine, I mean, oh my goodness, you roll up to, I forget is it 9, 8, 9 or 10 up in the top of the hill. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. And it's just those holes. I think the coolest thing too is a lot of these courses were built, out by the sea, and with now clubhouses and stuff, you're closer to the car park. So those first few holes, they route you out to the links like Royal Dornoch, the first and second, and then the third, it's like, oh my gosh, it's right there. And that's a lot of different features at a lot of different courses overseas. But yeah, I mean, Cruden Bay, you definitely get that too, with the sea right there. And
a castle.
Gosh, yes, the castle. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I mean, go on and on with so many different ones, and the setting really is what makes it.
Well, and we haven't even touched on the fact that, I mean, I would say it's links golf adjacent in terms of the tie-in, is that the difference in the feeling and the welcome and the hospitality that you encounter and what that adds to your enjoyment to the round of golf. We've got access to, say, what, 30 of the top 100 golf courses over there, maybe even more than that. I don't even know the latest count. I guess it depends on what list you consult as well. But I think the notion of just walking up to a top 10 golf course in the world, top 20 golf course in the world, and just strolling in the clubhouse as just a guy, you've got a tee time, like anywhere else, as opposed to, who invited you? Are you a guest? Do you know a member? Whatever. And then, okay, you've got that tee time. You are a quote visitor, but the welcome and the fact that you are made a member for the day at so many of these clubs and what you encounter, that feeling, it all goes back to it just all of that. The people, the setting, the golf, it just gets in your blood and you just can't get it out no matter how hard you try.
Yes, sir. I remember, when I know Connor's got some good stories with Hourglass as well. The first time we went to Royal Portrush, this is before the changes, before the Open. So we didn't get to play the 2 new holes, but we were playing in front of a twosome of ladies who were playing and were very speedy. And we kept trying to wave them through and they refused. And so, Dad and I were doing some hunting that day and for golf balls, not for grouse or pheasant or anything like that, so we were hunting for golf balls. And so when we got finished, I saw them in the parking lot and I went over to apologize because we were especially looking for Dad. And the first thing, she didn't even allow me to speak. The first thing she said to me is, "What did you think of our links?" That is what it's all about to me. I was a club pro, like you said, Deej, for 20 plus years. And when there was somebody on the golf course that my members, whichever club it was, didn't recognize, the first thing they ask is, "Who's that? And why are they here?" That is not the way it is overseas. So these 2 ladies that were playing in front of us, they wanted to hear stories and they saw them most of the day, but it was fantastic. And, Muirfield gets a bad rap sometimes about how exclusive the membership is. But having been around private clubs my whole life, good member clubs, they're driven and led by members, want to make the decisions for themselves. So the first time you go, you're a little bit nervous, a little bit shy, not sure what to expect. My dad and I played our own ball in the morning. We didn't have the opportunity to play alternate shot in the afternoon, but we did get to go have lunch. And we were the only 2 people at lunch. This is late October. And a meeting of members broke out and the entire lunchroom was available for their use. They sat with us. There were 8 gents. They were younger guys and they were probably low 40s to maybe low 50s. And they sat with us and just asked questions. "Where are you from? What do you do?" And I had the honor of telling them that I work for Haversham and Baker. And one of the guys asked me, "Do you need a European correspondent for this job? Because I want it," And so that is just a taste of the feeling that I think you get from those folks over there, especially at the private establishments. They are fantastic hosts, from the secretaries to the membership, to the superintendents. I can't tell you how many great conversations I've had with them, pointing you in certain directions when you get to a certain hole to go check out this view and this. I mean, just the insight that they give you and the love that they have for their own links gives it to you as well. And that's why, we get emotional talking about this stuff because I remember walking around the new Jameson links with the superintendent who'd been there from the beginning. And I asked him, I'm like, "What do you think about them making these changes to your links?" He's like, "Well, I'm part of this too. And I wouldn't be a part of it if I didn't think," and he started to kind of break a little bit, if I didn't think it was worth making. It brings out just an extra ounce of charm that they already have. So it's fantastic. No doubt.
I think my favorite question that you'll hear across the pond is, "How did you get on?" Mm-hmm. How did you get on is what you hear from the members when you're over. And man, it just means so many different things. And like bottom of their list is, "What did you shoot?"
Yep.
It's what did you think of the course? Yep. What did you think of the day? How did you hit it? tell me about the fifth green. Like, how did you get on? And and you walk into these clubhouses, you're going to hear it. If you are traveling on a trip and you bump into a local member at a course, you will hear the question, how did you get on?
Yeah. And they don't mean, how did you gain access like they would
Right.
here in the States. Like I was just a congressional, they wouldn't say, how did you get on? It's like you said, DJ, the inflection means something. How did you enjoy your day? How did you hit it? How did you enjoy, we were talking about Klondike, at Hinch, which I thought I made double eagle there. I was running down the fairway, skipping. I hit it right over the stone. My ball mark was 6 feet from the hole. Look in the hole. It's not in there. I was over the back of the green in the deep rough. And I'm like, oh man, so, but that's the kind of stories they love to hear when you're done. That's what they want to know. You're exactly right. It's a totally different feeling that you get when you're done.
Yeah, I think, gosh, this is so fun. I love this. I think the biggest thing that I find when going overseas and just like talking to the members and the staff at each club is it's unpretentious. We have a lot of that here in the States, the opposite. And we talked about how amazing links golf is and how inviting it is. Well, the courses and the clubs and the experiences are also just as inviting, if not more. They want you to see it. They want you to experience it. They want you to see, that they're proud members of their clubs. They wear their crests around the, county or what have you in Ireland or, wherever, but they want you to experience it and hear those stories, as you mentioned. And as we talked at the last episode on Dan Wood, if you haven't listened to it, if anyone's listening to this, go back and listen. It's an amazing, candid conversation. But he kind of starts off and says, golf overseas it's blue collar. That's a fact. I mean, as you talked about too, Mike, I mean, perfect story. I played Ard Glass in 2022 and I played on a weekend, and Paul actually paired me up with 3 members, and it was the local principal of the high school. It was a plumber, and I think it was actually a teacher at the high school. They were colleagues, and it's me, and they're out there and they're playing, on a weekend game, and I'm along with them, and they're just wanting to know, where I'm from, what is Haversham and Baker, how is business, how can we get more visitors to come here, and it's just the coolest thing. And a lot of these places, and that if you're local, from that area, I mean, memberships are discounted comparatively to what it would be here in the States. Extreme. So they want visitors to come and experience that so they can offset their member dues every year as well. So they want you to be there just as much as they are. And I think it's just the perfect yin yang situation, and everyone just has the love of links golf, again, of those members and the visitors, and just want you to experience. And I think it's just it's the coolest thing possible. So
when is the last time, Connor and Deej, that you have ever played a links course that wasn't in good condition?
Oh,
never.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Literally
Thank
never.
I've never heard one of our people come home and say, man, that place was a dump. You know why? Because they're not. And even if the condition is a little bit different from grass to grass, from club to club, from big name to small name, the pride those people take in their links shows, as both of you stated, from not just the greeting you're given, but from the care that is taken in the links that they love so much and they wear their crest. I don't think I've ever been in a divot. Ball marks are fixed. Where is that here in the States? That's a whole nother podcast for another time, maybe during the USGA want to talk about or something. I don't know, but I've never played a links that was in bad condition.
I think the only time I have ever heard anything in terms of course conditioning was several years ago when they did have a serious drought situation.
Yes.
And numerous courses had significant die off of some of their fairways, because it's not like over here. They don't have sprinklers every 10 yards. And if they do, the water restrictions are so much different in terms of using it. And the greenskeepers over there, the task is just monumental when they get these drought conditions. But the flip side of that coin is, how often do we have people who come home and are like, man, The weather was too great. I wish we had one day where it just rained sideways and I got to experience it. Well, if you get to go over during a drought time and you playing a burned out, baked out fairway and you're hitting shots and you're putting up a plume of smoke with every divot like Seve back in the day, hitting and it's just a poof of sand. There's something thrilling about that.
Yes.
So the flip side to, okay, yeah, the course is burned out and whatever, is that you wanted links golf. Here it is.
Yep. Brown is beautiful. That's my superintendent used to say, one of my clubs. There's nothing wrong with a little brown, folks.
Yeah, and here in the States, I mean, we spend at some clubs millions of dollars on budgets for, greens to keep everything green, grass green, and double row and single row irrigation systems. And sometimes overseas, I mean, it's not the case. I mean, gosh, St. Andrews, they just put out an article this week. I think they're doing some adjustment. I think the whole course, if I recall, of or one of the Links Trust courses with more sprinkler heads. So yeah, Brown is good over there, and it's so fun to play. And I think it comes back to that, hitting that shot into the abyss and the anticipation of where it ends up leads into that.
And we've talked about all of this, and we've hardly even touched on the topic of history. The fact that, we've got all these clubs over there where 1895, 1873, 1884, whatever the founding years might be, and all of those are dates that are older than like 99.99% of golf courses in the United States. Over there, 1895 is, you're just kind of coming into your own. You're finally growing up. And to walk the fairways in the footsteps, as they say, to step on a tee and be able to remember Tiger hitting this shot, or whatever it might be. Again, it's just it all adds up in the end to why we love it.
Think of the back nine that Mickelson and I should say Stenson first. Stenson and Mickelson played at Troon. No one could touch them. So you know how that back nine can get. It's as hard as it gets when it's into the wind. But they get to walk in the same bootsteps as their heroes, whether it's on the men's tour, the Champions Tour, the LPGA Tour. They've all played them and can tell those same stories. And I've been fortunate enough to do that with a few guys, and they still love telling those stories. The ones that really love it, you can tell they're absolute junkies like us, and could walk round for round with you and just talk stuff, because a lot of times when you're over there, the conditions may dictate, but we actually have a chance to drive the ball in the same positions as they were, because of whether it's the firmness, the wind switched, or whatever, and my Kingsbarn story, I didn't play well there, but I love that place. The par 5 third, I hit driver sand wedge into a par 5. It was blowing 35 miles an hour downwind, and we turned back up the bluff on number 4, and I hit driver 3 wood to the front fringe, so it's like there's stuff like that. And that's not even a historical one, per se, although it is teeming with it now with the Dunhill links. But everybody's got their favorites. I think that is fun in its own right. You guys were doing your favorite holes over there. I think we talk about our top 5s here a lot, so I'm just going to do that because I don't know how many times I'm going to get to be with you. But my top 5 is Royal Dornoch for sure. Talk about history. My dad and I went over for the first time when I was with the company, my first year with them, when John sent me over. I did not have to go to Dornoch for anything. And I told Dad I'm going to get a putter cover because it was the 400th anniversary of golf in Dornoch, and I've still got that putter cover in my basement. Number 2 for me is the Ailsa. I won't even ruin it. It's spectacular. Muirfield's number 3 for me. We've touched on it a bunch. It's just the experience of being in a place like that is just, there's a magic about it. Lahinch is number 4 for me. I think it's got the best set of par 4s maybe I've ever played. And number 5 is North Berwick. If I could be a member anywhere, I know it's tough because I know they're having a hard time with all the visitors coming down, but that place is something else. It is something else. We played behind a society day, and so you boys know what that means. It was slow. I wish it could have been slower. you wish it would never end, again, that's what kind of this theme that we've been talking about with links golf. That's all these days, you got, whether it's 7 or 10 or 4 or 3, you're going to be out there with whether it's your buddies or your family, your father's sons. The first time we went over getting to play with my dad on the old course, you wish those days never end, yeah, it's special.
It is. I mean, from historical standpoint, I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, we all know, I mean, not we all know, but we've talked about it numerous times. Prestwick's my favorite overseas. Some people may like roll their eyes like, oh my gosh, so many blind shots. I hate it. But well, cool. You can not play there. I'll play there all the time. But I mean, where the first Open was in 1860. I mean, it's a really special place in my heart. I've been fortunate to play it twice, and I would be a member there and play there every single day, even given the quirkiness. I mean, Willie Park Senior won it the first time, and I mean, like the Alps hole, the 17th. Funky, quirky golf hole. People
what a great hole.
Exactly.
Remember you talking about mystery, Connor, before, and DJ, before you were talking about the mystery of certain shots. How many times has that whole location been blind and you nip one in there and you are running to the other side of that hill to see where it ends up? And you and I have talked about this many times. Chris has too. The shot values that are still needed to play there still track. I would be fascinated to see what guys would do in bad weather there on tour if they had an Open there again. Like, wouldn't that be neat to see that? I wouldn't care if they shot 20 under there, to be honest. Just to see them when it's not easy, we really have to think their way around. That's for sure. I think that's why you love it so much.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm heading to England's Gulf Coast this fall, and playing hopefully the 3 Royals in the area. But Birkdale. I mean, I've been telling you two. I've been rewatching the Open of the R&A on YouTube. It has a really great series, and they go through its 45 minutes to a little over an hour long. And they go through all 4 rounds of every Open. I think it started in 1970 until present day. And so I've been going through them since the beginning. And my favorite so far is Trevino in 71 at Birkdale with Mr. Liu. I mean, the ending of it is, I mean, I almost stood up from my couch. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is just unbelievable golf. And hopefully, this fall I'll be able to, experience that and walk the same fairways and just remember those moments. Because again, the Open's my favorite. Open Championship's my favorite major to watch, and every year, and kind of digging more into the history from that standpoint. But there's these clubs just have it. They take so much pride in the game, so much pride in their club, and it really resonates once you go over, and you kind of have that same pride for the game once you come back stateside.
It's funny, you talked earlier about the visitors and how that it kind of helps subsidize the memberships and so forth. I was in Tain not long ago, and I always make a point to ask our partners over there, anything you need, what can we do for you? And the gent replied, I just need 1 out of every 10 of your coaches that drive by going to Dornick to stop. That's all. Just 1 in 10. That's all we need. And it just really struck that just how important it is to those clubs, the visitors that are coming. But yes. But listen, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I think we could keep doing this for another hour if we really wanted to. Anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, this has been really, really fun. I'm glad we did it. Yeah, I got nothing. This is awesome.
Mike, you said earlier that you're going to name your top 5 because you don't know how often you'll be back with us. Well, I've got news for you. You're back with us the very next episode. Nice. Because next episode is going to be for the Open Championship. And we talked about it on the last episode. For you good lifers listening out there, we're not going to do a Royal Portrush preview thing. Nobody needs another one of those. We're going to talk about our favorite memories from either the Open Championship or Royal Portrush. It's going to be a little of both from the 3 of us. But we would love for you to contribute. So if you go to haversham.com/podcast, you will find a record a message feature that we've added there. Drop us a message. Tell us about your favorite Open Championship memory, or if you've played Royal Portrush and you've got a great story from it, please feel free to drop it there as well. We just might include it into the episode. We'd love to hear from you. But as usual, if you got any questions, Send us a DM on social media, email us golf@haversham.com, or use that same record a message feature and send it on over to us. We'll be back again soon with the next episode, but until then, we wish you plenty of golf at its finest and life at its best.